Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pull Tab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 4-game series against the Cleveland Guardians. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins head to Cleveland, and they managed to take only one of a 4-game set for the first time they see the Guardians this season. A bit frustrating, as this is an AL Central opponent. Dan, we'll talk more about this later, but this is what I sort of expected and allowed the team to do for this series.
And yet it seemed so hopeful that they were going to do much more than what you predicted, right? I mean, winning 1 out of 4 was your prediction, but they should have had 2, maybe 3, maybe 4.
There's an argument to be had. I'm sure we're going to get into it. One quick thing before we get into the recap, Dan. So I bought Twins TV. I've been a little bit frustrated because that means that I cut my cable connection, which seemed like a great plan until every Minnesota team started making the postseason, Dan. Now I have no way to watch the Wolves. I have no way to watch the Wild. Regardless, Dan, Twins TV promised me all of these great new camera angles and new statistical analysis, and it's going to be super exciting. What did they do, Dan? They added 2 new cameras. That's all that they added. One, that wire cam that I still haven't really found to be that interesting. And then the other one, Dan, is just a camera directly on Corey Provis' face.
I think they put that there because, you know how last year he would always press the button and say, I had a feeling something big was going to happen, so I pressed record. Now he doesn't have to do that.
I suppose. It's just so funny because it's like Provis and then in the background, whoever the co-host is. So this time the analyst was Denard Span. And so quick note about Span also. In the first game, it felt like he was a little nervous. But by game 4, man, oh, dude, on fire. It was so good, but he was great in the booth, so I hope we get more of him as the season progresses.
One other thing about the cameras is that Progressive Field also has the wire cam. Like, it's not so special.
No.
Like, I was hoping for something that was going to be unique, and instead, it's just not, the magic isn't as magical as I was hoping, David.
Speaking of magic, Dan.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
Okay, well, with that,
I wasn't even trying to tee you up for that. You just, any moment you have.
We had to get that sounder in somehow. I don't know if we're going to talk about Keishel in this episode or not. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the series recap. Lots to talk about in this 4-game set.
Series recap.
You know, Dan, in a lot of series, there's sort of these high points, the rising action, the climax. I'm sure you're very familiar with these terms. The falling, what's the falling?
The falling action, and then, you know, the resolution usually.
The resolution
goes. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the climax. If you're a Twins fan, was real early in the series, Dan. Game 1, the Twins win this one 11-1. It seems as though the boost that they got after sweeping the Angels was continuing. They looked like a dominant team, a very different team than we've seen all season, Dan.
Sure helped. Bailey Ober was great right out of the gate. He gave him 7 1/3, 8 hits, 1 earned run, 2 Ks. Interesting season stat that Aaron Gleeman put out. And in his first start, Bailey Ober gave up 8 runs in 2 2/3 innings. In his next 5, 7 runs in 30, which is an interesting way to get to an ERA of 4.13. That's Gleeman's comment on that.
Absolutely ridiculous. But the Twins get on the board first, thankfully. Top of the first, Julian, the first pitch of the game, Dan. You hadn't even sat down. You don't have your popcorn. You don't have your beer even open yet. And Julian has already put the Twins up 1-0. Thankfully, the Twins continue to add on. Correa singles, France singles, and then Jeffers with a big RBI double scores Correa. Twins are up 2-0 before the game really starts, Dan.
Yeah, in the bottom of the first, Kwan hits a ball between second and third. And this was a strange play. It's clear that Jonah Bride hasn't been around good shortstops, I think, because he ranges to his right. He tries to play the ball, but Correa cuts him off in kind of a, like, excuse me, like, what are you doing here kind of way.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
Yeah, Bride didn't know what he was doing here. Correa does throw Kwan out at first. Bride kind of stepped on Correa's toe. Correa had a lot of things happen to his feet in this series, too. He was kind of hit himself with a baseball. baseball off his own bat in Game 4. But no damage done here. Yeah, I think Bride's probably embarrassed going back, just not used to playing with greatness.
Yes. Top of the second, Twins do a lot more damage here. Bride, actually, the aforementioned Bride, hits a single, a Bader walk, a Julian walk, and then a Buxton big 2 RBI single. Twins are up 4-0 at this point. Julian actually should have scored on Correa's single, but he just wasn't paying attention to the defensive alignment. And Dan, that's not the only time in this series that mattered.
Exactly. I know that's going to come up a little bit more too. In any case, though, in the top of the fifth, after a couple quick outs, the Twins rally. Jeffers walks, Gasper singles, Bride hits an RBI single, Bader hits an RBI single, and it's 6-0. And you're feeling, even against Cleveland, you're feeling pretty good. Bottom of the fifth, the Guardians score their only run of the game, but that's all the Guardians would do.
Yeah, Twins continue to pile on the top of the sixth. The Buxton single, a Larnach single, a France RBI double. You get the picture here, folks. The Twins score a ton of runs. On the pitching side, like we said, Ober did great, and then Alcala closes out the game, actually, which I'm surprised that Rocco trusted him to do so. But so he pitched the last out of the eighth and then the entirety of the ninth. It gives the bullpen a ton of flexibility for the rest of the series. It's always interesting, Dan, when we write these notes right after the game, because I think I would have written these notes very differently had I written them after the entirety of the series.
Yeah, the Twins in this game, they go 8 for 14 with runners in scoring position, which feels like more hits than they had over. There were weeks where they went with fewer hits with runners in scoring position. Their run differential jumped into the positive at this point, and at that point they were fourth in the majors in average with runners in scoring position. Another stat that, yeah, it would be. And the other thing too, Cleveland is known for its pitching, but that was a terrible day for the Cleveland pitching staff. A 2-inning start by Williams. Junis got hit by a ball in his knee coming back at him. Paul Sewald left hurt. A position player came in late. We're going to talk about later. It felt like Cleveland was unraveling, David.
Yeah, and so you're thinking, oh my goodness, the Twins might actually have a shot in Cleveland to take a series, maybe even sweep it with the momentum that the Twins had. And then these next games, Dan, were boring, bad baseball. It's like the team absolutely reverted to what they had been previously. So Game 2, Twins lose this one 2-1. There's a weird rain delay. I don't know how many people on Twitter I don't know if they're being facetious, I don't know if they're being serious, but Chris Atterbury and all of Twins Twitter was convinced that the Guardians somehow manipulated the rain delay to let BB have a better run-up to the game. They wanted Paddock to do his whole warm-up routine and then have to do his warm-up routine again. I don't think the stadium, it's the umpires who make the call, right, Dan?
I think that it is the team up until the first pitch, and then it's the umpires after that, is what I read. So they do have a little control over that.
There are some shenanigans at play then.
Well, and there was... Dan Hayes was tweeting quite ironically about the whole rain delay lasting and how there was, almost no rain. I mean, they could have played, they could have taken a pause. They might not have even had to pause. They could have just played through it. So in any case, the Twins do lose this one 2-1 after all of that. It would end up being kind of a late game. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, this is a little adjacent. So top of the second, they showed Rocco eating sunflower seeds or something he was doing. And his hand was positioned almost like he was going to take a bite out of a donut, or maybe put some sunflower seeds into his mouth. I've never been good at eating sunflower seeds. I always try to eat them, and I just feel like I get shards in my mouth from the sunflower. Am I doing this wrong? Are you a sunflower seed guy?
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
No, I don't like any food that you have to put in your mouth and then remove parts of it. Dislike it. That's why I cut my oranges and my apples very specifically so that I never have to do anything. Once the food is in my mouth, it's not coming out. Look at me.
It's just very weird. Are you supposed are you supposed to lick the salt off and then spit the seed out? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to crack the seed open and then get the seed out and then spit the shell out?
They make beginner sunflower seeds, Dan, that are just the actual seed that you don't even have to worry about the shell.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Anyway, it just struck me as strange. This was still when I was in a good mood about this series. Another thing at the top of the second, Jonah Bride hit a ball back to Tanner Bybee, the Guardians starting pitcher, and Bybee went halfway to first and soft tossed the ball to the first baseman. And I was thinking, David, why have I not seen this play before? It's because the Twins don't seem to know how to do this simple play. And there was another play, it might have been in the previous game, I forget now which one, where a different Cleveland Guardians pitcher made a heck of a play, ranging to his right and throwing a dart to first that Carlos Santana caught. It was defense can be played by pitchers, David.
No, actually, what they're supposed to do, Dan, is they get as awkwardly positioned as possible to pick up the ball off the ground, then throw it faster than any pitch they've thrown in their life, and just pray that it hits the first baseman, Dan.
We're a little sassy here. In any case, bottom of the third here, the Guardians get their first run, a Bo Naylor home run. He will feature later on this.
No, hang on. pause for a second.
Yes.
Go look at the pitch by pitch.
Oh, yeah. You showed me. You put it up on the X. Yeah.
Bo Naylor hits like 30 foul balls down the right field line that are almost home runs. And Paddock's like, let's just keep doing that and just wait until he actually hits one that stays fair. What are we doing here, team?
Bad choice. Now, later, there was a brilliant sliding catch by Byron Buxton in right center to rob Stephen Kwan. And I love that he slid instead of like leaping or diving, just that the maturity of Buxton. But it was a great catch. Top of the fifth, Ty France ties the game with a home run. Bader grunts to Bybee. This was the play, right? This was the one where like Bybee ranged to his right, made a beautiful throw. Santana, ironically, the former twin Carlos Santana, doesn't actually control it upon review so that Bader is actually safe, but still great play there. And then top of the seventh, another base running blunder here. Ty France is thrown out at first after trying to stretch a single into a double. He retreats. Rocco argues. Doesn't go well for the Twins here.
Rocco's out there arguing, and Provis and Span are both like, what's he arguing about? It's a clean play. Clearly, Dan, they're baseball purists who understand that like there shouldn't be these ticky-tacky, base-running manipulations of the rule book in order to gain an advantage. But clearly, Rocco's arguing that Santana is blocking the bag for France to retreat. And yes, letter of the law, there's no question that Santana is directly in the lane for France to return to first base. France is out, first of all. Like, I mean, the play is clean. Depending how you're going to interpret that rule, I would say, yeah, definitely Santana was blocking the bag without having the ball, which if what I understand the rules to be, that's not okay. But Dan, anyone who has watched baseball for as long as we have, you watch that play, it's an out. Like, nobody's making a fuss here. But I guess I sort of commend Rocco for at least trying in that instance to say, hey, if this is a rule, we should call it by the rules.
There's that, yes. It's a letter of the law kind of moment, but it is kind of annoying. You know, it's like, it's a little gripey.
Yeah.
In any case, so the Twins get some good pitching out of their bullpen, actually, after Paddock leaves. The sixth is clean by Stewart. Jax's seventh is clean. Duran's eighth is clean. And then in the bottom of the ninth with the game tied, Varland allows a walk-off home run to Kyle Manzardo, and the Guardians win 2-1. Another one of those middle 91-mile-an-hour pitches that's not going to get a lot of guys out.
Might as well have been batting practice at that point. Like the game, and to be honest, if we're in Cleveland and Cleveland has a chance to walk us off, Cleveland's going to walk us off. That's how this works, folks. The script doesn't change. Like, do you know at Christmas time, the Hallmark Channel, when it's those movies and it's always the same, they're with a guy and then they go and they meet a guy who they really don't like at first, but then you know they're going to end up together and the first guy is actually a jerk. The script is written, Dan. Everybody knows how it ends in Cleveland when there's a chance for the Guardians to walk off the Twins.
Ogres are like onions.
Yes, that is what it's like. They could make like a progressive field Christmas. Like that's what they could call the Hallmark movie.
They actually already have one named that because they've made so many of them. Like it's pretty difficult to come up with a title they haven't used already, Dan.
Just a couple quick stats. Both teams finished 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position, left 5 guys on base. Was a pitcher's duel here. And as Dan Hayes pointed out, that was the 10th consecutive one-run game loss by the Twins at Progressive Field, and that got added to later on in the series.
Perfect. Game 3 here. Twins lose this one 2-4. It's just, honestly, reading these notes is just disgusting. Dan. But so a pitcher's duel through the first 6 scoreless innings, but then there's the 7th, and we're going to talk about it later, folks, but as we've alluded to, Twins pitching not being able to field their position plays a large role in this inning.
Yeah, in the bottom of the 7th, that's when the Guardians get 4 runs, including a 3-run home run by Bo Naylor, so it's 4-0. In the top of the 8th, they do get a run back and a Brooks Lee home run.
He's got a back problem.
I think he's healed from that. And then in the top of the 9th, the Twins do bring the tying run to the plate. Emmanuel Clase, by the way, has not been great this year. I was looking at his stats, and it's pretty remarkable. So last year, he gave up in the whole of 74 appearances and 74 to 30 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs. This year already in 14 games and in 13 innings, 10 earned runs. Incredible. And then, of course, he was still able to lock the Twins down. But
yeah, it's not a lot to brag about shutting the Twins down here. But anyway, we have to brag about when the Twins beat the White Sox 2-1 in a series. So
exactly,
it's hard to, again, I'm being much more cautious now, Dan, because my my hope is wavering. But we'll get to that later. Move on to game 4 where my hope wavered from the get-go, Dan. So this was a 3-hour 14 game with 2 hours and 23 minutes of rain delays, which again, I would argue, now that I understand the rules, the Guardians couldn't have exactly manipulated these to their advantage, but maybe they slipped like a 20 to the ump and they're like, hey man, Twins are kind of getting hot. Can you just call a rain delay quick?
Maybe, I mean, it's very possible that they were doing something here because both teams wanted to get out of here in this game, right? So the interesting thing about the timing of that was that the Twins were trailing 2-0 for a long time, as we'll get to, but they did tie it up before that long rain delay. Otherwise, I wondered they would have just called this off. SWR struggles with control early, and so then he leaves early. 4 2/3 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 4 Ks, and a home run. The Guardians score first when Arias walks, and then an RBI single from Kyle Manzardo, and then the first of many squandered opportunities in the top of the second.
Yeah, so France singles followed by a lead double. So you got runners on second and third, no out. Bader hits a grounder to third. France is going on contact. We'll talk about this later. He's thrown out by a mile. Now you got 1 out with runners on first and second, and then Cody Clemens, the long-tenured twin, strikes out.
Soon to be short-tenured twin, I'm hoping.
Vasquez grounds out to end the... It doesn't work, Dan, as being facetious if you say it's long-tenured and then short-tenured.
Yeah, whatever.
My long-tenured makes it seem like he is long-tenured if you say that his long-tenured is going to be short-tenured. That is very confusing, Dan.
You know what they say? Fool me once, strike one. But fool me twice, strike 3.
Anyway, Vasquez grounds out to end the inning. Threat neutralized by the Guardians.
Bottom of the second, the Twins turn a strike him out, throw him out. With a great tag by Correa. The Guardians challenged, but the call stood, which mattered later because France did another boo-boo on the base paths, and I think the Guardians could have used their challenge a little bit later.
He got thrown out at second. It was terrible. He thought he hit a home run. Slow trots out of the box. Then he realizes that it's like off the bottom of the wall, and then he turns on the jets. He's thrown out for sure, and the Guardians have no challenges left. I don't know who was pitching for the Guardians at that moment, but I don't know if I've seen a man that upset in quite a while.
Quiet middle innings, except Big Christmas hitting a solo shot in the bottom of the fourth, 450 feet. The Twins do finally get some offense moving. They actually had a lot of hits in this game, but Bader singles, Vasquez hits an RBI single, Julian singles, then Correa hits an RBI single. It's tied at 2. They end up leaving the bases loaded. And then the top of the 8th, they load the bases with 2 outs. Correa comes to bat, the guy you want up in that position. And then after an 8-pitch battle, he pops out to second. And then there's trouble here for the Twins in the bottom of the 9th.
If you just watch the bottom of the 9th, it's pretty electric as far as like the tension that you're feeling as a Twins fan. You know the Twins are going to lose this game. Like, it's just a matter of time. It's just like, how are they going to lose it? But Duran does his best here to keep things interesting. So he loads the bases on 2 singles and then an intentional walk after he throws 3 bad pitches. But then he strikes out Bo Naylor. But the biggest play of the game, Steven Kwan goes down on strikes, and he was looking at the third strike, Dan. It was a drop-in curve that hits the bottom of the zone. And for a guy who never takes strikes, like this guy swings when the ball's in the zone and he doesn't when it's out of the zone. Crazy fun play. In that moment, I thought there's a chance this Twins team could win this game. But again, Dan, my goodness, the hallmark rule applies here.
Yeah, so the Twins do score their ghost runner in the top of the 10th. But then, of course, the bottom of the 10th, it's what you expect happen. There's an infield in moment here where, the Twins maybe could have decided to concede the tying run. They end up allowing Jose Ramirez to bat with the infield in, and he knocks in the tying run. And then the Guardians, of course, win it with a walk-off hit. So it's 4-3 Guardians, and another walk-off 1-run victory for the Guardians over the Twins at Progressive Field.
Dan, it can be rough to watch the same thing happen again and again and again. The consistency is infuriating. But can I tell you when consistency is not infuriating, Dan?
Please. Yeah, please.
It's when your internet provider provides quality service constantly and consistently. Attention, Minnesota, there's a new high-speed internet sheriff in town. Gateway Fiber has landed in Blaine, Brooklyn Park, Champlin, Coon Rapids, Maple Grove, and Plymouth with plans to expand deeper into Minnesota. Gateway Fiber boasts a fiber optic network that exceeds the capabilities of some of the biggest players in the business, giving you more whiz for less cost for all of your online working, streaming, gaming, and whatever. With no hidden fees, no data caps, and no installation fees, Gateway Fiber is perfect for your home or business. Go to gatewayfiber.com to get fast, reliable, and affordable high-speed fiber internet.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Unfortunately, Dan, Andrew Hogenson gets the victory with Buxton. Buxton had 6. Me and the listeners had Julian and Larnick, respectively, who each had 2 points. You had Correa, who had 1. And Dan, I have to give you some props here. Because you told me that it was silly that I didn't take France, that going to Julian was the wrong call, and France had the high score. It would have been the bonus had I taken him too, Dan.
After all, miss, this is France.
Next time he's available, David, I guess you're going to have to take him. Yeah, the season standings now, Hogs jumps ahead of you. He's got 4.5 points. You have 4. I have 3, and it's all the way back from the first 3 series of the season. Listeners still have nothing. They did get back to 0 on the points. Hogs leads points as well, 40. You have 30, and I have 14. Once again, not off to a good start in Puckett's Picks for me.
Beast versus bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
So I feel like I have to take France as sort of like
But why?
an apology to him for not
But
taking him.
you have so many complaints about how you ran the bases.
I do, and that's why I actually want to pick Pablo but then the thing is, I have a lot of trouble choosing Pablo because his perfect start was sort of ruined by his inability to field his position, Dan.
Oh, Vizzini. That's what you sound like right now. I clearly cannot choose the pitcher in front of me.
Now we got to cut another sounder. Look what you've done.
I know. That's a good one, yeah. So you're going with Pablo? Did you explain why?
Well, I mean, he pitched great. I mean, it was a masterclass, absolutely. He silenced the Guardian bats. I don't think you can have one play totally wipe out what he did, especially when it's the offense who needed to score runs here. You can't expect your starters and your relievers to be perfect, Dan. I saw a tweet. Cumulative ERA for our starters is like sub 3. How is our record what it is right now, Dan, if that's the case?
Yeah, well, it's because of the bats. I'm picking a pitcher too. I'm picking Bailey Ober.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
He was marvelous. He did his job to set up the bullpen, as we pointed out after game 1. You had everybody available for the rest of the series. If the batters could just get a couple more hits, then this would have been a series win. So that's why I went with Ober.
Well, and he's my boy, so I will never dissuade you from picking Ober. I'm going to go first for my bench, but I think that your bench is actually the correct answer. I'm going to give it to Varland for the one pitch that he threw that lost the game for the Twins to a guy, this Kyle Manzardo fellow, who I guess played for the Guardians last season. I couldn't remember him. I couldn't place him. I'm like, when is he from? And then the thing is, all you have to know is he's going to walk off the Twins, so you just assume he's a Guardian, Dan.
Yeah, we will never forget that name. I'm going with the bench spot. I don't think I've ever done this, but I'm giving it to the entire bench because it was so depressing to look at Rocco's options when he looked down into the dugout.
Hang on a minute. We could use a pinch.
And saw Jonah Bride, Cody Clemens, Christian Vasquez, and a rotating other player, right? Like the 10th position player who actually has a chance. Jonah Bride was like the only good option that he had through this whole series, it seemed. It was just, and Deshaun Kersey, he's the other one. I felt bad for Rocco that this is what he's left with. And I'm going to bring this up a little bit later, but like the lack of depth on the 40-man roster is absolutely killing the Twins lineup right now.
I do want to mention on the bench, though, from the bench, Cody Clemens went 0 for 7 with 3 strikeouts. If you take away the double he hit in game 1 against a position player, which definitely doesn't
That's going to
count.
come up a little bit later, too.
And then, but we should mention, too, the catch that Deshaun Kersey had, where he was ranging to his right and left field, was a pretty nuts play here. So if you haven't watched that highlight, folks, you should take a look.
Rocco's Rewind.
Well, okay, so I posed this question at the end of game 1, and then the rest of the series happened, so I don't quite know. So the Twins were up by plenty here, and they're playing a rival, and they're playing in a stadium they haven't played all that well in. Would you, if you were Rocco, would you have brought in a position player to pitch in the bottom of the 9th in game 1 when you're up, 10 runs at that point?
Just because it's the Twins playing at Progressive Field, no. And I think that Alcala, because he only had to get 1 out in the 8th and he hadn't thrown a ton of pitches, he's already warm. You're probably not going to use him in back-to-back days anyway. So I think given the circumstances, no. If it was a starting fresh 9th inning and the team was up by 10 runs, maybe. But I just think you don't give that team sort of that window of like, you know what? Yeah, it's 10 runs and that's crazy, but you have a guy on the mound throwing 50, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. It became a philosophical question more than anything because it's a dangerous bit of gamesmanship to play that. I don't think it ever reflects well on you. They didn't need to do it, but I just wondered if Rocco even has it in him to make a move like that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But maybe because he's bold in other ways, Dan, and this is what we need to talk about.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
This whole contact play philosophy that Rocco has, Dan, this bothered me so much today because you had a chance to have a big inning, and you have Ty France on third base, who we've talked about does not understand base running. He's more Eddie Rosario than Eddie Rosario is Eddie Rosario. So let's start there. I should say sometimes we praise him because he takes an extra base, but I think in my mind, Dan, I praise him because of the times it's successful, but if you look at the number of times that causes failure, it's a problem. And if I see Ty France get thrown out at home plate one more time this season, Dan, I may explode. Because in this instance, runners on second and third, no outs, and you call the contact play. I understand it from a perspective of you're at the bottom of the lineup, you don't know how many chances you're going to get, but at the same time, there has to be a little bit of hesitation in France's mind, or in Tommy Watkins' mind, or in Rocco's mind, in somebody's mind. If the ball is hit directly to the third baseman, and he's going to throw you out by 15 feet, you must know that as soon as the ball is hit. It's obvious where that ball is going. You need to have a moment of reflection before you're going. I get they call it a contact play because you're going on contact. That doesn't mean you can't take a split second to realize you're going to be thrown out by 30 feet, Dan Thompson.
There it goes.
And that was Gardy's gripe.
I know.
It's ridiculous, Dan.
It
you
is.
can't just keep calling that play because it worked one time against the White Sox.
Yeah, you can't send Ty France. You can send a lot of guys, but you cannot send Ty France. In a game where, yeah, like you said, you feel like you're going to be able to win this baseball game. You just get a run in that situation. But the Twins, they do not have a lot of faith in the bottom of that lineup right now. I think that's a big part of this. It's still foolish. It does not make a lot of sense to me.
Well, let's keep going here. Minnesota moment. I'm all worked up now. Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
So we came into this series with the stat that the Twins hadn't had a catcher hit a home run yet. I thought it was just so funny that in game one, Ryan Jeffers does get a home run, but it's off a position player. And and it brought back a memory of a guy who we both love.
Well, don't worry, be happy.
Because there was a moment last year, maybe it must have been the year before, where Joey Gallo went like 3 for 4 and he tanked a home run off of a position player and he trotted his trot to first base. He was so excited. And I just couldn't help but think that this was bad juju or mojo or whatever it is to be. I don't know. Ryan Jeffers should just politely drop the bat, take his home run, and like go back to the dugout and feel just a little bit ashamed that like this is the first home run that he's hit all season.
So Span had a funny line here. He's like, yeah, you know, it's off a position player, but halfway through the season, you're going to look at that stat book. You're not going to know it was off a position player.
I don't know. I think I might remember. I remember the Joey Gallo one. These are the moments that I do hang on to.
I'm going to go on the negative side of things. I guess that was kind of negative,
yeah,
too.
I turned to
depending
positive
how you
and
look at
negative.
it.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But it's got to be game 3, bottom 7, when Pablo threw away that ball that basically ended the game. So it's a pitcher's duel. You need to keep the score tight. It just allowed the snowball to start rolling for the Guardians. And I think that pitchers for the Twins would be far better off just eating the ball. Don't bother. Don't bother throwing the ball the first if you don't have a guaranteed out. Like what you talked about, Dan, the whole soft toss after walking to first base. Twins pitchers shouldn't even soft toss. They should walk the ball to first base. And if they can't beat the runner by walking to first base, just hang on to it. You're better off.
It's like Smalls walking the ball in from left field, from left center,
yes,
right? Just
yes.
walking along. That's
exactly
what they should do.
I just don't have any faith for pitchers to throw to first base, so just don't. That's the easiest way around this. It's like Rocco's perspective on stealing last season. Just don't. Somebody might get hurt. Even though every other team has decided it makes a lot of sense to steal, we're not going to do that. This is just one more thing the Twins do that nobody else does. Pitchers are not allowed to throw to first base.
And Tommy Watkins cannot send a runner when a ball is hit to third base with a runner at third.
I would be harsher on Tommy Watkins if I was convinced that he was the one causing the send on the contact plays, but I have to think that's coming from Rocco.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
So right now, David, the Twins are missing 5 position players who I think are key. Royce Lewis, who you're going to ask about, so we're just going to take him off the table here. Matt Wallner, Austin Martin, who always sounds like a James Bond vehicle to me. Luke Keeschel.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
And Willi Castro. Of those 4, I want you to rank the value of them. Most valuable to least, or least to most, depending on how the drama, what kind of drama you want to build here.
Let's go least to most. I'm going to put Martin at the bottom. And the only reason I'm putting him at the bottom is because he hasn't been at the major league level this season. I know that he was absolutely destroying at AAA. But Dan, there's a lot of guys who play baseball who end up destroying AAA and can never make that leap. I'm not saying Martin's that guy. I'm saying that I can't put him any higher on a list because he hasn't proven himself to be able to hit so well at the big league level. Then I think I'm going to go Castro. And I understand that Rocco loves him and I love his positional flexibility, but I just don't know how much I care about that right now because you just need somebody who's going to spark or you're going to need somebody who can swing the bat well. And that's Keeschel and Wallner. This is where it gets a little tricky to me. Wallner, you got a much larger sample size, and you know that he's going to hit some home runs, and the Twins have hit so many singles, and they haven't hit for much power. However, Keeschel, dude, that guy is a spark plug. It's just so hard because he played so few games, Dan. It's so hard to say, Kieshel's more important than Wallner. So I'm going to go Kiesel second, Wallner number 1. But my goodness, do I want to see Luke Kiesel back on that field.
He's the one.
This is what happens to the Twins prospects is they play a game or two, they blow our socks off, and then they get hurt because they blow a knee out or they get hit by a pitch. And then, yeah, I'm mostly going to agree with you, but I'm actually going to put Castro right now higher because of I'm going to put him number 1 right now because I watched Rocco look at his bench and be befuddled as to what to do. I think if they had Willi Castro healthy, they win 2 of these games. I think that there's a couple key situations where he plays a whole game and Cody Clemens isn't. You can't tell me that Castro in for Clemens doesn't give him one of these at least.
That's a possibility. When you frame it with that way, that's a pretty logical argument, Dan.
So I don't know if
I'm willing to try and poke holes into.
I think they would miss Willi Castro. They clearly miss Wallner, but I would go Castro, Wallner, Kiesel, Martin in that order right now. Just because of the small sample size for Kiesel. Who knows? He could come back and he could bat 100 for the next month after he returns in late May, which is as good of any moment here. So he's going to be out for a little while. They're going to monitor his fractured arm just to see what happens. Also, Nick Paparesta, the Twins trainer, said that what Wallner has been diagnosed with is called, and I can't make this up, a moderate to severe left hamstring injury, which we should not confuse with Royce Lewis's moderate to mild hamstring injury that he suffered earlier.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
So it's going to pretend.
So it's going to be until Wallner is back, at least the rest of the month, it sounds like. And same with Kiesel. Kiesel probably not till June sometime.
Yeah, and then Wally Jenkins, one of our favorites, the top prospect in the Twins org, he's going to be out until at least the end of May with a sore ankle. He did get a cortisone shot, but he is still going to have to keep weight off that ankle from what we understand. And then last note here, Matt Cantorino, we actually didn't mention this on the last show. The Twins released him. He's the guy who loves board games, so I love him. He still hasn't reached back out to me on X. I'm still waiting. Matt, if you're listening,
come on, Matt,
please send me a note. I'm in Northeast Minneapolis. Look behind me. I have so many board games that we could play together, Matt. But the Twins released him, and then they actually re-signed him to a 2-year minor league deal. He won't pitch this year because of a shoulder injury. But my goodness, Dan, that guy can throw. You know when he's coming back, though. They're going to put him in the bullpen. They won't let him try and be a starter anymore with the injury record.
Yeah, poor guy. All that is to say, let's get to your musing here.
Royce Lewis has played a couple of games with the Saints. He played a couple of games in a doubleheader in one day. Then he had a scheduled rest day tomorrow for the Saints, Dan. What on earth? Don't you just bring him up for Boston just to give the team a spark? He's playing baseball. Like, I understand you need a guy to start to feel warm or whatnot. It doesn't matter at this point. He's no worse than any of the bad guys they have on the roster right now. Even if he's playing bad and he needs a couple of series, I'd rather have him work back up to his normal potential on the big league roster than wasting good at bats at AAA just waiting for him to come back up to the bigs. What do you think, Dan?
Well, so actually all that time that you were talking, I've been doing an Expedia search from flights from Columbus to Boston because that would be the cost here. So just give it a second here while Expedia loads, because I really think it all rests on this, David. How much money would it cost for a one-way coach ticket? Let's be honest, they're not flying Royce even first class, the Pohlad family here, to get him to Boston. I think that's what it comes down to.
You know, F1 is in Miami, and all of those guys have private jets. Maybe we can just borrow one, Dan.
Maybe we could here. So if he's willing to have a layover, it looks like in the DC area, $167, right? We could get him there. Ooh, but that's not till 9:55 p.m. That's not gonna make it. It's gonna be a little spendy. $550. Maybe we can start a GoFundMe. We can get Royce to Boston by, ship him up to Boston by first pitch.
Dan, do you want him there in Boston? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think, yes, because I don't want Cody Clemens on this roster anymore. I'm tired of that. I would take Royce pinch hitting in a spot in a Kirk Gibson-esque moment here on the 2nd of May. That's what I want.
I would take him in the dugout not playing over Cody Clemens at this point, Dan.
All right, we should move on here. Let's last look at this at the series grades.
Series grades.
I'm giving them a D. They should at least split this thing. I think they won the run differential in this series because of that 10-run victory in the first game, and they still lost 3 out of 4 in Cleveland. I'm tired of it.
Dan, the people want a rubric. They keep crying
they
out. The inbox is flooded with people requesting a Dan Thompson rubric. And folks, Dan and I talk a lot throughout the week, not just about baseball. And Dan's a teacher, and they're trying to make him use these AI rubrics. And he was so upset because they weren't relational. And I totally agree with Dan. But then what bothers me is he won't even put the time and effort into a rubric for your Minnesota Twins.
I will get there. It's just they got to win. They got to get back to 500, which, David, how are they doing, by the way?
Okay, so this is a great segue into me, I'm giving them a C. And the only, if I was just grading this series without what I had built up in my mind for what the Twins needed to do, I probably would have given them an F because I'm so frustrated with them continually losing games to Cleveland. But here's the thing, Dan, my path to 500 by the All-Star break had the Twins only taking 1 of 4 from the Guardians here. And I need to point out, Dan, I've been basically spot on. The record is exactly what I said it would be at this point.
It's been 2 series.
3 series. I had the White Sox, the Angels, and the Guardians.
Oh, you're right. Okay. All right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I had 3 series. They're at the record I said they'd be. And folks, again, I'm going to reiterate, May 18th. If they don't start winning games on May 18th, pack your bags, figure out your lineups for next season. Who are they going to dump at the trade deadline and what can they get? But if they start winning on May 18th, this team, Dan, they're going to start rolling.
Well, I tell you, on May 18th, when we get there, we are certainly deep into spring. And at that point, it's time to think about using the grill, inviting the neighbors over for a good old-fashioned barbecue. Lucky for you, Cub Foods is your one-stop shop for all of your grocery needs. With everyday fresh products, a wide selection, you'll be in great shape to host the next grill out with all your backyard essentials. Fresh produce, deli meats, party trays, bakery, they're all there in one stop. With over 100 locations in Minnesota, you can check out your local Cub on your next shopping trip, and you'll find all your springtime essentials.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Folks, if you have not seen the Giants walk off the Rangers on a Ramos Little League home run, go watch this play because it is the funniest thing you've ever seen. You are going to be shocked to see a different pitcher outside of the Twin staff commit an error that leads to a home run, Dan. It was so fun to watch. It wasn't just a Little League home run. It was a Little League walk-off home run.
What drama, what a game, what a finish.
Pretty dang fun. And then we have another conspiracy theory once again being proven right, David. So you have mentioned something. You've mentioned that the Chicago White Sox are gradually changing over to a different sport. Well, then you got to look at the new City Connect jerseys that are literally inspired by the Chicago Bulls. They're red, they're black. Michael Jordan could have worn this and just, he wouldn't even have to change jerseys when he was going from the White Sox farm system to the Chicago Bulls. It is stunning how similar this looks. Again, what's the next step, do you think, for this team? Are they going to start wearing basketball shoes instead of cleats?
They're one step away, Dan. They're just getting closer and closer. But I did want to ask, how would you feel if in the next iteration of the City Connect for the Twins, if they did like purple inspired by the Vikings?
Interesting. Yeah, I think I might not mind that. Like a purple inspired, because it would be different enough. I would take the wild green. I would take even the Timberwolves outfits. I think you could do a little bit. Maybe
outfits,
when the Timberwolves...
Dan? Outfits?
Sorry, jerseys, kits, whatever it is, whatever they call it.
Getting these City Connect jerseys, I understand so much of it is a cash grab, and they just want people to buy different things. I'm still pumped. In 3 years, I can't wait until the Twins get another set of City Connect jerseys.
I mean, what's another hat, David?
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and make our Puckett's picks for the upcoming Red Sox series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's picks.
The listeners are going to take Correa, which I think makes sense, and then it goes to you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to go outside the box a little bit and take Brooks Lee. After that home run in this series, I feel like he's swinging a good bat. It'll be his first trip to Fenway. He may have been there last year, but I'm excited for him. I hope he's able to step up.
Yeah, I'm going to take Buxton. I think that he's been so good, kind of streaky, but I'm hoping that he can start a new streak here in Boston.
And then Hogs is going to go ahead and take Ty France. He was very quick to take Ty France, so he must feel pretty confident about that pick.
That's the roll, miss. This is France.
What do they have to do according to you? You have to take one of these 3 games?
They have to take one of the 3 against the Red Sox. However, in the back of my mind, in my heart, I wanted them to split with Cleveland. But again, I tried to be very, very conservative in my estimates of what the Twins could do. They just need to take one of 3 against the Red Sox. Just don't get swept at Fenway.
Well, David, I think with that, I'm going to send us out. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platforms so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.